So we just saw looking at simplifying an expression. Now we want to solve an equation. So the first thing that we're going to see different here is that we're actually going to have an equal sign. Okay, so we're going to do a few examples. We're going to start off nice and easy, and then we'll build up to something that involves us having to simplify before we actually solve. So let's look at a first example here. Okay, on this first one, we're going to have 5x plus 8 equals 23. Nice and easy, but we notice this is different than the last thing because this is no longer an expression, it's now an equation because it's got this equal sign, right? So what I'm going to do is make sure that each side is simplified, which it is, meaning that I cannot combine a 5x and an 8. They're already simplest terms, okay? So once I do that, I'm going to move the variable to one side of the equation and move constants to the other. So I notice that my 5x, it's the only x in the entire equation. So it's already by itself on the left-hand side. So what I need to do is move this 8. To move or take that to the other side, I'm going to do the opposite operation. So instead of adding an 8, I'm going to subtract an 8 so that I can cancel off the 8 from that side of the equation. That's going to leave me with 5x on that side of the equation. If I take 23 minus 8, I'm going to be left with 15. I'm going to continue to solve. So to continue to get x by itself, I notice 5 is being multiplied by x. So the opposite operation would be to divide by that 5, which is going to leave me with x being 3. So again, we said we kind of start off nice and easy there. Hopefully that kind of rang a bell, like, okay, we've done that before, nice and easy. Let's look at one where maybe I've got variables on both sides. Okay. So let's say we have negative 4x minus 1 equals 2x plus 11. All right, so this one starts off the same way. I'm going to make sure that each side of the equation is as simple as possible, which it is because I cannot combine any more like terms on either side. So now I need to make sure that I've got variables on one side, constants on the other. So I have a choice at this point. I can choose to put my x's on the right side or the left side. I normally like to just move all my letters to the left because that's just an easy way for me to remember letters on the left. Doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and subtract this 2x. I'm subtracting it because it's positive. So to undo a positive 2x, I would subtract it, which is going to leave me with a negative 6x. Bring down that minus 1. Now it's going to equal 11. Okay, so now that I've got my x's by themselves on the left-hand side, I need to get that constant, that negative 1, to the other side. So to get rid of that minus 1 or that negative 1, I'm going to add it to the other side. Okay, it would cancel, so I would have my negative 6x equals 12. All right, so we're almost done here. We say negative 6 is getting multiplied by x, so I would divide by that negative 6. Remember, I'm still trying to get that x by itself, so x is going to equal negative 2. Okay, so our last example here, what we want to do is think of something that's maybe the most complex that we could have, where I would need to simplify before I begin. So I might have something like 3x plus 2 times 4x minus 7 equals 5x minus 8. So when we look at this, remember the first step would be to make sure that each side is simplified. So I notice that the right side is simplified with the 5x and the 8. However, the left side is not. So the first thing I need to do here, PEMDAS, so I look at my parentheses, I'm good there, no exponents, but I do need to go ahead and multiply that 2. So I'd be left with, bring down that 3x, multiply that 2, so I'm going to give an 8x minus 14. Haven't done anything to this right-hand side, so I'm just going to bring it down. I'm not finished here because I will now need to combine those like terms. All right, so now I'm going to combine those. I'm going to end up with 11x minus 14 equals 5x minus 8. Now it looks like the problem that we just did, where I've got variables on both sides. So again, I'm going to move my letters to the left. Your choice what you want to do. So I'm going to subtract that 5x. So I'll be left with 6x minus 14 equals negative 8. Now the last thing I need to do, I need to get rid of that 14. I'm going to add 14 to both sides. Doing that's going to cancel off that 14. Leaves me with 6x equals 6. One last step, get rid of that 6. So I'm going to divide by that 6, and I'm going to get x to equal 1. So we started off with something pretty simple, reviewing that idea of when I move either a constant or a variable to the other side, I'm going to do the opposite operation. Then what if we have variables on both sides? We'll get the variables on one side, constants on another. What if I have something that's not simplified? Well, I'm going to simplify it first, then variables on one side, constants on another, and continue to solve.